we're going to be doing a new giveaway.
The D&D Beyond Players Bundle.
In that bundle, we have the Player's Handbook, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, Xander's Guide to Everything, and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So we're going to have tons of character options.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below on the video so you're entered to win a great giveaway coming from us very soon.
Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Jameson, Alex here, moving on in the subclass series into the next subclass, which is the Fathomless Warlock. So, if you're new to the channel after the subclass series, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the abilities gained in this subclass. Then we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities. So, without further ado, Alex, take it away.
We get spells. We get spells.
Spell choices.
But they're spell choices. They're not not freebies. Sorry, Warlocks. I feel for you.
I'll never understand.
Yeah. Anyway, create, destroy water. Okay, makes sense. Thunder wave, gust of wind, silence, lightning bolt, sleet storm, control water, summon elemental, water only. Again, makes sense. Bigby's hand appears as a tentacle. Will be fun. And cone of cold. So a lot of watery cold stuff, thunderstorms, things you'd see on the ocean because fathomless. So thematically on par there.
Yes.
Level 1, you get a very, very detailed ability starting off early.
You get spiritual tentacle.
You get your own version of spiritual weapon. It's a little bit better. As a bonus action, you can create a 10-foot long tentacle at a point you can see within 60 feet of you. Tentacle lasts for 1 minute or until you use this feature to create a second tentacle, which then gets rid of the original one. When you create the tentacle, you can make a melee spell attack with one creature within 10 feet of it. It takes 1d8 cold damage, and its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. When you reach 10th level in this class, the damage increases to 2d8. As a bonus action, you can move the tentacle up to 30 feet and repeat the attack. You can summon a tentacle a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and get all uses back when you finish a long rest. So, because off the top of my head, I've used spiritual weapon a couple of times. You can move spiritual weapon 20 feet. In order for you to do damage above a d8, you have to cast it at a 4th level spell. You can't do it at level 3, you don't get the extra damage. At 4, it becomes 2d8. So this is just passively increases at level 10, so it scales up pretty well. It does spiritual weapon damage. It's cold, but it can move 30 feet instead of 20, and it also does reduce their movement speed by 10 feet. So,
and this is the reach.
And it's got the 10-foot reach instead of just 5 feet. So it's basically a spiritual weapon on steroids that you can use a number of times equal to your proficiency instead of using spell slots. So good for Warlocks.
Yes.
Also at 1, you get Gift of the Sea. You gain swimming speed of 40 feet and can breathe underwater. Makes sense.
Very thematic. At level 6, we have Oceanic Soul. You are now even more at home in the depths. You gain resistance to cold damage. In addition, when you are fully submerged, any creature that is also fully submerged can understand your speech and you can understand theirs. So, you are Aquaman, essentially.
Basically.
Also, we get Guardian Coil. Tentacle of the Deep can defend you and others, interposing itself between them and harm. When you are a creature you can see takes damage while within 10 feet of the tentacle, you can use your reaction to choose one of those creatures and reduce the damage to that creature by 1d8. When you reach 10th level in the class, the damage reduction is increased to 2d8. So it scales with the tentacle itself. So, a little way to reduce a little bit of damage. Not a whole lot. I mean, on average, you're going to get 4 or 5. So, and at level 10 plus, you're going to get around 9-ish damage on average. But every little bit counts. Your healers will appreciate it.
Yeah, again, preventing damage is a lot easier than healing it. Yes. Especially when you're not to expend spell slots to prevent said damage. It's just an ability you have access to.
Right. In level 10, we have Grasping Tentacles. You learn the spell Evard's Black Tentacles. It counts as a Warlock spell for you, but it doesn't count against the number of spells you know. You can also cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. Whenever you cast a spell, your patron's magic bolsters you, creating a number of temporary hit points equal to your Warlock level. Moreover, damage can't break your concentration on the spell. Note on there as well, though, it doesn't say anything about incapacitated. So if you're stunned, for example, or anything that causes incapacitated or unconscious, you will still lose concentration. But damage, you're not have to make concentration checks, essentially, to hold it up.
Right.
And just a quick recap on Evard's Black Tentacles. Typically, level 4th spell. Normally, 1 minute concentration, but it is what it is. On there, they still have the minute duration, but not the concentration part of it. So that's keep in mind. It's a 90-foot range, and it's a 20-foot area. Also, it is difficult terrain in that 20-foot square, and Creature must make a dexterity saving throw, take 3d6 bludgeoning damage, and be restrained by the tentacles until the spell ends. Creature that starts its turn in the area and is already restrained just automatically takes 3d6 bludgeoning damage. Creature that is restrained can use its action to make a strength or dexterity check. It does use their action, though. So if they do want to try to break out of it, they're going to be making basically their turn to break free. So a pretty solid spell, and we'll see how that comes into play later on with some potential in the combat department.
Yep, because there's going to be a thing there. And finally at 14, you get Fathomless Plunge. Imagine you open temporary conduits of watery destinations as an action. You can teleport yourself and up to 5 other willing creatures, that's willing is important there, that you can see within 30 feet of you. Made a whirl of tentacles, you vanish and then reappear up to 1 mile away in a body of water you have seen, pond size or larger, within 30 feet of it. Each of you appearing in an unoccupied space within 30 feet of the others. Use this feature, you can't get it again until you finish a short or long rest. So it is a watery teleport. So, level 7 spell, essentially. But you travel up to 1 mile, and it's just 1 free use per rest of any kind.
Right, so make sure you have a puddle nearby. Well, a pond-sized puddle.
Right. Puddle. Body of water.
Doesn't specify how deep it is. It has to be
pond size.
Pond size. That's a very gray area.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind.
How big's got? I mean, what classifies a pond? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you have like a wizard with you, you can make ponds.
Sure.
You can make. Anyways, those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. So we'll move on to the rating portion of the video. First up is the roleplay. Asterisk, as always, talking about roleplay value, talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background. That's on you as a player. Can't rate you as a player, but we can rate the abilities gained in this subclass and how they might improve your potential in those roleplay scenarios. So, all of that said and out of the way, we have a couple thoughts here on the roleplay section. There are definitely some options. The teleport with RP is always a thing, though it is only 1 mile, so a little bit of caveat there. And it has to have a body of water. So if you're out in like the desert, for example, you're probably in a rough spot. Or if you're in, a big plains and there's not happen to be a pond or lake or whatever nearby, it is what it is. But like we said too, if you have organization with your party, you could create said teleport location just in case as a get out of jail card.
I mean, you do get access to create water as a level 1 spell. So there's options.
There's ways you can make your own little...
Make friends with a sorcerer, a wizard, or a druid in your party if he exists.
Right. Get some mold earth, shape earth, all that.
That's right.
That being said, having swim speed, water breathing can definitely come in handy, especially if your campaign is more water-oriented or, certain parts. I'm sure most campaigns are going to have some part where there's some kind of water body involved.
Oh, yeah.
Not always, but usually, it's water. It's pretty common.
Yeah, lake here, river here,
right.
Things like that, yeah.
It is reliant on water, and this subclass tends to be a little bit more focused on the combat. There's not a whole lot of abilities that are given that are more on the roleplay side. So we just went with a flat 3 out of 5 on the roleplay. But definitely some interesting thoughts on the combat.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Access to additional spells to pick from is never a bad thing. Warlocks do suffer from the fact that they are warlocks. They have the fewest spell slots of any caster in existence. Their half casters have more spell slots than they do, so there's something to factor in. Yeah, you get more spells to pick from, but you're still not going to cast very many of them. So that matters. But with the ability like Tentacle of the Deeps, again, I'm a huge fan of abilities that don't cost you something else that you have a limited amount of, like spell slots, for example, as a Warlock, right, to give yourself a reliable extra attack as a bonus action, extra damage, even some extra utility where you can reduce something's movement speed by 10 feet. More on that in a minute. And not only that, but it also does scale up in its damage offensively and the damage reduction it gives you at 6. Well, again, only resource you're losing there at the second ability is just your reaction every turn. So you've got a choice, because, again, a lot of classes and subclasses don't have a choice to use their reaction just innately. And yet you've got to have the tentacle out to be able to use that. But unless you're in a bunch of combats in a given day, you're probably going to be able to have that tentacle up
should be
during most of your combatant time. Get swimming speed and breathing underwater, depending on how common water is in your campaign, could be huge, may not be, but it's still there. Resistance to cold damage is very nice. especially it's one of the more common magical types of damage up there with fire, obviously. So that's always a good thing to have. Again, passive things are great. Grasping Tentacles. It's great that you get a spell that you get to cast for free that doesn't cost your spell slot. Because again, Warlocks are resistant or lack the number of spell slots available to them.
Yes.
And the Plunge is a good get out of jail free card if your party has gotten into more taking off a bite that you can't quite chew.
Right.
They shouldn't have. Or if everybody's in dire situation, you can try to get out of there if you really need to, as far as eject button out of combat. So we went with a 4 out of a possible 5, and there is a little extra something combat-wise we'll discuss more on the synergy side as to what makes it so good.
Yes, because we originally had our scores for this, and then we realized, looking back at the original base class again, some options that become available with some stuff, with some shenanigans that can be done.
Yep.
So we ended up bumping it just a little bit on here to get to that 4. But, again, synergy side. Yeah, so as you may know, being a Warlock, spell slots can be quite a limiting factor. It is unfortunate that you don't have spells known, free spells known given in your subclasses, as a lot of other classes get that option at some point in time. So your spell choice is very important as Warlock, but you also have fewer spell slots. So a lot of times you're going to be very reliant on Eldritch Blast.
Yes.
So with this subclass having a melee component and you being reliant as a Warlock on Eldritch Blast, you can have multiple points of attack on a regular basis.
Yes.
So, some of the important things to keep in mind as well with Warlocks, outside of their spell slots, is their invocations that they get. And as I said, with Eldritch Blast being a big part of the class and subclass, especially, something that's going to be very important is your ability to control the battlefield. So with the Tentacle, you're able to cause a slow, and you can move around quite a bit. 30 feet is pretty good, especially when you're slowing whatever you're hitting as well, or having the chance to if it gets hit. So that is one thing. But then some of the invocations that we have, like Grasp of Hadar, where you can, when you hit a creature with Eldritch Blast, you can move the creature in a straight line 10 feet closer to you. Or, in the other direction, you have Lance of Lethargy. You can reduce creature speed by 10 feet until the end of your next turn. So if you have Lance of Lethargy with that, you're going to hit them with your Eldritch Blast, and then hit them with Tentacle. That's 10 feet reduced twice.
20 feet.
20 feet reduction.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. With Repelling Blast, you can push people 10 feet away with Eldritch Blast. So if you have Repelling Blast and your Lance of Lethargy and your Grasp of Hadar, you can push and pull and slow on top of your tentacles, slapping people around. And then you have your Avard's Black Tentacles.
Yes.
With this, it's difficult terrain, so you're slowing them. If you can place it on them, slow them in the difficult terrain, and then push and pull them back onto it, even if they use their action to break out of it, you can just
push them back in.
Try to push them back onto it over and over again.
Yeah, as long as you continue to hit with Eldritch Blast and the Tentacle every turn, they can't actually get out of the grasping tentacles of Avard's.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. And then you can keep pushing them back. Because they start their turn.
Right, they start their turn in there, so they take the damage again. So it's a very interesting little way to really ruin somebody's day. Because you can't target more than one person with all these abilities at once. But you can really make sure, especially if you're fighting maybe one melee and two ranged guys, you don't want that big angry rage monster to come get you. He's like, you're going to sit right in there.
Right.
And he's not going to get out of there.
Yeah, and you can be mean old bullies and have your party kind of go around the Avard's tentacles, and then try to get out, you just shove them.
push them back.
Shove them back in. You're like, no, stay right there.
Yeah.
So you can do some shenanigans. Though it's just a small area, it's just 20 foot. But just the ability to have control where you can slow and push and pull someone around is really going to limit their movement. And that can make a huge difference in the battlefield.
Right.
Obviously, we're going to run into issues with flying creatures or things that can hover.
Yes.
You're going to have more issues with that because they can kind of avoid some stuff, definitely. So, all that being said, we went with a 4 on the synergy side as well. Again, you can see some combo potential going on here with multiple ways to slow, multiple ways to push and pull and control where they're at.
Yeah, you get some extra reliable damage.
Exactly.
Helping your damage floor consistent, because when you know you're going to be doing a lot of Eldritch Blast, you can still do the Tentacle as a bonus action, giving you kind of this kind of rangery paladin feel of just reliable, consistent damage without having to spend spell slots.
Exactly.
Getting some more survivability with the Tentacles defense, helping you stay alive longer, and giving you none of your abilities taking any of your spell slots to use, or threatening or tempting you to use them.
Right.
So it lets you feel free that all this is going to be separate from your limit to your base limit of spell slots.
Right. And then, of course, if you go ahead and take stuff like Cone of Cold, like you do get access to in this, you're really going to have some impact on the battlefield control. Mm-hmm. But, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. But before we finish, there's a quote that Tasha gives on every single subclass on here. So what does she say about this one?
I never understood why some people get so jittery about tentacles. Have you ever had Octopus Nigiri? One of the few pieces of evidence of a benevolent universe.
Fair.
Can't say that I have. I like calamari, so.
Yeah, there you go. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications to know if our new videos are coming out, so that you're entered in that giveaway. Make sure you comment down below. Let us know what you want to see from us in the future, what your thoughts are on the subclass. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.